This is a miniature from Miniature Scenery, but the designer is someone I only knew as Mouse Muffins. Mouse Muffins was someone that I followed on miniature forums when I was growing up and was a huge inspiration to me and why I make miniatures now. You're gonna see his genius as these two flat panels transform into something quite beautiful.
I think the beauty of this kit is in its engineering. It's so clever, and that breeds its own aesthetic with all its limitations. And so I kind of wanted to do something clever with it too.
I was very, very inspired by Mouse Muffins as like a 16-year-old, so much so that I learned CAD, computer-aided design, so I could also make kits like him. I even applied for jobs that I didn't get. but the whole catalog of miniature terrain templates that I have is a result of that learning, and by default Mouse Muffins. And I've never had a kit of his before.
I just got back from PAX, by the way, and that's where I bought this model, and out of everything I could buy, this is what felt most appropriate.
Before I put everything together, I'm going to give it a quick sand.
I like to give my MDF kits a bit of weathering, round over some of the hard edges. It really transforms them from MDF to miniature.
Okay. Now that I have a finished assembled model, I want to turn it into something else. Actually, I want to turn it into multiple things and then be able to keep it like this if I want it to. I basically want to use this model for as many games as I can. I think it would make a very good Great Unclean one. Except this one's too small, but I have this. I actually took a scan of this little Great Unclean one and I made it big. That was thanks to my friend Viv from Knights of Dice. I borrowed his scanner to do it a very long time ago. It's kind of just been sitting here and I'm thinking, could I... So this top part is going to act as like a barrier so we can make a Great Unclean one body, so then we can remove it when we don't want to use a Great Unclean one. This milliput is definitely expired. So good use. I just had a very, very silly idea that could be great. So this tank is carrying the smallest Great Unclean one. The smallest unclean one. The greatest, smallest unclean one. And because it's like an effigy to the little guy, and then when enemies see it far away, they're like, oh, that thing's huge and enormous. In actual fact, it's like just this little fella. The little legs came from this model. Shout out to Steven, who I play Mordheim with. He bought that for me as a present for doing all the tables recently. Man, this is sick.
In order to bring this epic scale miniature into the realm of 28mm, I basically have to re-sculpt the whole thing. There just wasn't enough detail in the print for me to be happy. And that's okay, because sculpting is really fun. And definitely the original print did make the process a lot faster, and I had to make way less decisions, but it also got in the way in places, which is why I ended up cracking off those hands, and I replaced them with action figure hands from a World of Warcraft orc shaman. I think. I didn't play WoW.
This is how we're looking so far, and now we're going to remove this. We can put the gun back in the tank. It's a bloody tank again. But wait, I think we should turn this into something for Turnip28. Turnip28 is like this weird alternative Napoleonic universe stuck in the trenches. It's gritty, it's silly, and it's very, very cool. And I'm thinking I can turn this into a tall man, which is basically just a unit to instill fear into the enemy. And I'm thinking a gigantic carnivorous plant to sacrifice to will do the job. Good morning. Everything is cured and dry. Before I paint everything, I'm going to hit it with a textury coat of Mod Podge. I mean, I'm sort of just stippling it on randomly, and this will help paint stick to it well, but it will also fill in some of the gaps and fix some of my terrible sculpting skills. This PVC plastic from old Reaper models, it's so bad for painting, because if you use paints with solvents in it, like spray paints for example, it'll kind of like melt it a little bit, and it'll be super tacky for a very long time. So we're gonna make sure all those bits are covered. See, while I was making that, a friend of mine, Ben, Apocrypha now, challenged me to a game of Pass the Scab, which the idea is that you make a scab, which is like a little steamboat, for his new game Scabs, which is also set in the Turnip28 universe, out of like a can of fish. And I nicked a can of tuna from my girlfriend, and I made this. Oh, see? It even pivots, because you kind of need to show which direction you're shooting for the game. Inside of it sits a little penguin. Probably named Pasto. Zambies, my friend, painted this. I primed the model gold and dry brush silver because I think my intention initially was to make this like a brass statue, effigy, whatever, not make it really look like a real great unclean one. And then very quickly I just started having fun. And I think it kind of just turned into like a kind of a sick great unclean one riding a fun vehicle. But that's how these things go, you know, especially when you paint without too much of a plan. So this is the theory. We have one model, bloody love it. We take this off. Right, now we have a model we can use as a tank. That's the stock model. Then we have this horrific monstrosity. Then we have our tall man for Turnip28. You can let me know if it works. I don't know. And then, you know, while we're playing Turnip28, the chances are that someone's going to want a game of scabs. Then this should lock in that. And that goes on there. And then we have our cute little scab for scabs with a turret that rotates. I think this is sick. All this paint is still very wet, but when it's dry, I think this is going to be very, very cool. I am passing the scab to my friend Whittle Grublin, and maybe BP Custom Creation.